Alright, what's good, gamers? What's good? My name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, Psych Sensei. Welcome to the stream, baby. Today we're reading the fun part of the article. It's the discussion to see what types of personalities play what types of roles and stuff like that. So if it's your first time here, what I like to do is I like to read articles and be nerdy and have some fun about what this article says, how you can use it, and any fun facts to take away from these types of things. If you really want to work with me, you want to learn more about what I do, you want to see how you can use psychology to better yourself, better your life, better your games, please visit my website, psychsensei.com. There, you can get all the resources. You can even fill out a free consultation form where you and I can sit down, see what's kind of going on, find your win condition, and work towards it today. And also, while you're there, might as well follow me on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of it there. YouTube can be found there on my website, psychsensei.com. All right, so let's jump into this, or jump back into this article. All right, this is what y'all came for. This is the discussion, baby. That's what you guys wanted. You guys want the answers. All this reading for funsies? Nah. All right. The aim of this study was to determine whether players who prefer different positions and roles in the game League of Legends are characterized by certain domains of empathy from the Acme model, social rank styles, and personality traits from the Hexaco model. Alright, based on the design of this game, representative of similar multiplayer games, it was expected that the three archetypal roles of multiplayer video games would be distinguished from domain of preferences for role positions for different roles and for different positions and roles, which would be characterized by a specific set of personality characteristics. Okay. According to the first hypothesis, a positive pattern of association was expected between the bot and mid positions, the marksman, mage, and assassin roles, which correspond to the general DPS archetype and affective dissonance, ruthless self-advancement, avoidance in coalition building, and the personality characteristics of low honesty, humility, and low cooperation agreeableness. This hypothesis is supported by the third QCF, which indicated that players reporting a preference for the role, excuse me, the preference for position of mid and the role of mage and marksman are distinguished by the following personality characteristics. Alright, so if you play mid and you also like marksmen and mages, your personality: pronounced affective dissonance, ruthless self-advancement, emotionality, and low honesty, humility. Interesting. I don't know what that says about you, but that's all I need to know about you. I really wonder, too, if this would be like, okay, say you're going on a date, be like, okay, you play League, you play this game, okay, what role and position do you like to play? And then we'll start there. Yo, it's good, Dr. Jeebs. I see you, baby. All right. It is important. It is important to note that the preference for the bot position is mostly found in the latent space of this function, but due to its stricter cutoff criteria for quasi-canonical saturation adopted in the study, this position did not belong to a distinct profile in this context. So not a bot diff, it's a mid diff, okay? And that would make sense. You know, bot, see, bot players, it's not diagnostic, but mid, that shit's diagnostic. Especially if you play a mid as a mage or a marksman. Then again, what else do you play mid? I guess you could play a support or a tank, but... Alright. Inflicting damage in League of Legends is correlated to the amount of resources a player can collect during a match. Therefore, in order for these players to fulfill such a primary role on their team, they must gain the largest amounts of resources possible, which can also often be obtained by greedily stealing resources from teammates. See, here's the thing too, though. Here's the thing too. I wonder if that's also what tilts people, is that like, listen, that's just how the game goes. They need these things, but if you're like, no, you're mid, you don't get these things, you don't deserve them, and like, you just don't understand from that perspective of what each player needs, and because your expectations of like, oh, mid should share and give it to me, versus like, they're gonna take everything. I wonder if that's also tilting for people. Versus, mid's just gonna be greedy and like they're gonna take everything. That's what they do, you know? Or like when I, as ADC, take jungle camps, like these are mine now. I wonder if jungle is like, yeah, you can have them if it's less tilting versus, oh my god, this guy's fucking greedy. All he does is take my shit. Probably, if you think about it. Probably, because if we're talking about tilt equals expectations, right? This also sets up the expectations of your team, what they're gonna do, right? Behavior that is consistent with ruthless self-advancement and low honest humility. Mine, 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 mine. That's funny. That is funny. Here it should be highlighted that one of the essential differences between the fighter, assassin, and tank roles on one hand and the mage and marksman roles on the other. Fighter, assassin, and tank roles and mage marksman on the other. Okay. Is the way they deal damage. More precisely, from what distance they deal damage to enemy heroes. Traditionally, the marksman and mage deal range damage, where the other roles deal melee damage. The association of emotionality with roles of mage and marksman can be explained by the fact that these roles suffer when the most when receiving damage. Yeah? Yeah? That makes sense. Often being quickly removed from the playing field, even with a small amount of damage. I feel like I experienced that all yesterday when I was playing. I was just getting removed. Therefore, players in these roles might be afraid to receive damage, and they heavily depend on their teammates to protect them. Yeah. Ashton et al. Suggests that those with high emotionality often experience fear of physical danger, anxiety in stressful situations, and the need for emotional support from their teammates. Isn't that a funny, like, thing? But yet we steal everything, and we're selfish. And it's kind of almost like counterintuitive, where, like, you're stealing all this stuff, but you expect people to help you. It's kind of an oxymoron here, right? Like, oh, I'm being selfish, but at the same time, I need all the resources. I guess it's kind of like the quarterback of a football team. You know, like they need all the resources, they need all the protection, but they can like do their job. If they can't do their job, they don't have any. I guess. Okay. Which aligns well with the behaviors observed in these game roles. From this description of these roles, it is also clear that their essence is to remove the enemy heroes from the playing field as soon as possible and to save the lives of their heroes while performing that task. Based on this, the pronounced affective dissonance found can be associated with their roles makes theoretical sense. For if these heroes do their job well, enemy heroes prevent from doing their job. Essentially, the nature of the game itself inclines those who prefer these roles to feel the opposite way of how their enemies feel. They rejoice in the misfortune of their opponents. I guess so. I mean, I guess if they're like opposed that way, that makes sense. Of like, yay, I'm doing good, I'm doing damage, versus, aha, I prevented you from doing damage. I guess so. It's just really funny though, right? Like, maybe that's why people find the team so much. Because I'm wondering too if like people on teams cannot agree who they're playing for. For example, like if you pick a carry champion, you're assuming, okay, everybody knows I'm playing the carry champion. I'm playing the mage or the marksman, the one that's doing damage for a team that's going to win the game. I wonder though if other people also understand and then can play their role of like, yes, mid is going to carry. I need to support mid versus like, okay, I as ADC also played a carry damage character. So who are you going to play for? Are you going to play for mid or are you going to play for bot? You know what I mean? And then like people get upset because they can't agree who they're playing for or what the win condition is. And then they feel like the win condition, or even worse, when they pick the win condition champion, but they do the heavy support thing. Like, oh, you guys need to support me. But then they don't do the things to win the game. And they're like, they don't have the balls or like do the things that they need to do to win, and they're like, wait, why aren't you doing the thing to win? Oh, because you guys aren't supporting me enough, and they go round and round. So I wonder if that's also it. Like, yes, picking carry champions, but then can you be the carry champion, you know? So I think it's one, agree. Who is the win con? And then I guess two, can the win con be the win con? Because I think if you're talking about tilt and you're talking about experiences of tilt, or you're talking about like the expectations that are built in with tilt, I wonder if that's one of the bigger tilters. It makes sense. Makes sense. All right, hypothesis 1 is supported by the first QCF, which describes the player profile characterized by preference for jungle position and the fighter and assassin roles while avoiding the support position and support role. Okay. Jungle position and fighter assassin roles, avoiding support position and support role. The results indicate that such player profiles are characterized by pronounced affective dissonance and ruthless self-advancement. Okay, let's highlight these. Pronounced affective dissonance and ruthless self-advancement and low honesty humility, which can be explained as operating in much the same way as those positions in the third QCF, as in these preferred roles were also found a negative association with affective resonance, avoidance of building coalitions, and lack of cooperativeness. From the description of the role of the assassin, it should be noted that their task in the match is to independently remove the primary target before the team fight actually begins. Therefore, the assassin heroes do not cooperate directly with their team in build coalitions. Okay. Alright, so if you're a jungle assassin, what they're saying is low effective resonance, you don't want to build teams, and you don't want to cooperate. But effective resonance here is affective dissonance here. Affective resonance. So what they're saying is when they feel good, when the team feels good, they feel good. Is that what they're saying? Okay, these findings align with that guy's observation that more aggressive hero choices, such as Overwatch's offensive role, are linked to darker personality traits, including lower empathy and higher aggression. The preference for roles like Assassin and Fighter in League of Legends, which are similarly aggressive in nature, also reflects a lack in cooperation and a tendency towards ruthless self-advancement. Okay. Lower empathy, high aggression. Lack of cooperation and tendency towards ruthless self-advancement. Conversely, support heroes in Overwatch showed a higher empathy and agreeableness, similarly to the character associated with support role in this study. Okay. That makes sense. Lower empathy and higher aggression in junglers, huh? What's poppin'? I'm working right now, but I'm tuning in and out between calls. Hey, man, thanks for the support, brother. Hope your day is popping too, or easier. Nothing crazy. This is interesting. Okay. This could also explain why individuals who showed preference for this role also showed a non-preference toward the position of support, which are fundamentally characterized by the relative opposite characteristics. So what they're saying is, if you play jungle, or these things, which is really interesting, is that like it sounds like on the opposite spectrums, you have like jungle and you have support. which means either A, they could complement each other really, really well because they actually understand the game from two opposing positions, right? Just do the opposite. Or they could hate each other because they just don't fundamentally understand how each other wants to play the game, which is interesting. I wonder then from that position how oftentimes junglers and support characters get upset at each other, if this is what's true. Jungle and support equal opposite. Okay. The fighter belonging to this group can be explained by this role's general proclivity to not need teammates to keep them alive while they do damage to enemy players, unlike the mage and marksmen who saturate the third function. What the fighter and assassin roles have in common is that their damage is dealt at close range, requiring them to engage in hand-to-hand combat. Individuals with low empathy... okay, here it is. Individuals with low emotionality are not easily deterred by the prospect of physical harm, feel little worry in stressful situations, and are less likely to share concerns with others, aligning with the demands of facing close-range combat without fear. Additionally, these traits imply emotional detachment and independence, further reflecting the nature of characters that engage in high-risk combat without hesitation. Players who prefer these roles often thrive in life on a knife's edge, embracing all-or-nothing nature of fights, where they either eliminate their priority target or leave their team at a disadvantage because they died. YOLO! So that makes sense. It's not just your jungle throwing. It's a jungle trait that they're down to throw. They're down to flip. That's just jungles, baby. That's just part of their personality. I really wish there was like, sometimes it's really, really hard to like pick new champions to try to play or branch out in. I wonder if there was like a personality test of like, these champions do these type of things. You might like these types of champs because you just YOLO too hard. Here you go. Maybe. All right. And in the second hypothesis, that the preference for support position and role, which align with the general archetype of healer, will be characterized by cognitive empathy, affective resonance, coalition building, and the personality traits of extroversion, consciousness, and agreeableness, alongside with low emotionality. H2 is supported by the first and second QCF. The second QCF describes a profile of the players who express the preference for this position and role of support, as well as a preference for the jungle position and avoidance of the top position. I guess so. Okay. Okay. Conscientious players are more likely to choose champions with strong control abilities, allowing them to manage high-pressure situations effectively. The finding supports the association between the conscientious traits and roles like jungle and support, where players must manage neutral objectives, disrupt the enemy team's strategy, and help their teams strategically. Although these roles might not receive the same recognition as damage-dealing roles, they often secure victories through disruption and control. It seems theoretically logical that the jungle position belongs to this space, as a player in this position, by the design of this position, do not have their own lane, but help other lanes to win. On the other hand, top players are typically playing furthest ahead from the other teammates, and thus were included in this grouping as a position typically avoided by those with a preference for archetype of healer. Because what they're saying is, top laners, you have no vision. You just want to bang your head in the top lane, and you don't want to like play for controller objectives. That's cool. That's cool. That's what they said, not me. I said it. I didn't say it. That wasn't me. All right. This finding is also consistent with Worth and Book's research on World of Warcraft, where helping behaviors were found to correlate strongly with traits like high agreeableness and emotionality. In World of Warcraft, players who engage in cooperative and helping roles are often outgoing, patient, empathetic, much like League of Legends' support role. The role requires both emotional and social support skills, as players must seek out situations in which they can assist their teammates. These shared traits across games reflect the underlying personality characteristics that align with cooperative playstyles, emphasizing the importance of coalition building and empathy in such roles. Dude, the TLDR, I guess, is like, bro, if you really want to hang out with a chill League of Legends player, go hang out with support players, bro. Apparently they're chill. They want to make friends. They're outgoing. They like structure of conversations versus junglers or marksmen, apparently. Or I guess if you really want to have a good time to balance out the conversation, I guess you'd have one with like a mid laner and a support character, a support player, maybe. Maybe that's the angle. If like I was gonna construct a party, you know, like junglers and marksmen, they're gonna do something crazy, and then you got to support people like to hold the party together, you know, and they got top just fucking shit up. I guess. All right. As already stated, where the jungle position is not traditionally to strengthen and keep friendly heroes alive, their role is to help teammates by removing and assisting the removal of enemy players from the game, rather than having their teammate removed, or through providing additional resources through neutral objectives. Essentially, they make a fight which would be 1 against 1, battle into a 2 against 1 affair, and thus provide a better chance for their teammates to win. This aligns with the characteristics of coalition building with their teammates, which is shown to characterize the jungle players who prefer this position. I mean, this is really hard. Like, they kind of do this toss up where they're kind of saying like, "Oh, it's about coalition building," but at the same time, it's not. But I mean, it's hard because I feel like it is a coalition building position because, like, yes, you are playing for the team, although you are selfishly doing things for the team to get stronger. You know, you're helping creating like different situations, but I think the reason why you're creating a 2v1 situation is because you're trying to get stronger, not because you're like doing it out of your own goodwill. You know what I mean? Maybe you are as a jungler. I'm not saying that you aren't. I'm just saying like most often the reason why junglers probably have high coalition is because they want something, not because like they're doing it for the goodness of their heart, you know? Yeah. Yeah, the jungle and support positions by game design have the smallest source of resources, and therefore the vitality and impact of these heroes' neutral objectives, which give various bonuses to the entire team, are of special importance. In order to ensure their own relevance to the match, they are most likely the ones who initiate and when and how to assume the neutral objective, which is in line with the traits of dominance, leadership, and extroversion. I should write all these things down after, yeah? Jungle and support. Okay. Another consequence for their possessing the smallest source of resources is that it opens up the additional space and the inclination and even obligations to bring advantage to the team in creative, innovative, and unconventional ways, which is in line with the emphasis to openness to experience. That makes sense, I guess. Okay, H2 was additionally confirmed by the first QCF, and these results create a space for additional theoretical considerations of video game playing style. Namely, the results of this research indicate that the characteristics of those players who reportedly preferring the positions and role characteristics of the archetypal role of healer are quite opposite to those of the players who indicated preferring the positions and roles characteristic of the archetypal role of DPS, not only in terms of style and the way of playing of these two archetypal roles, but also regarding personality traits. In H2, we assume that association between the preference for the position and role of support and cognitive empathy, effective resonance, coalition building, extroversion, conscientious agreeableness, and low emotionality. Okay. The first QCRF indeed supports this, but primarily through the negative association observed. Instead of these traits aligning with a preference for these positions and roles, they were associated with their avoidance. Instead of aligning with high effective resonance, these positions and roles were aligned low scores. Instead of building coalitions, they demonstrated a tendency to avoid building coalitions. Instead of instead of agreeable cooperation, a lack of cooperation stood out. Repeatedly, cognitive empathy, extroversion, and conscientiousness were not negatively associated with the support function, while low emotionality was shown to be a characteristic of both archetypes of both types of player preferences. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. That's odd. It's like the opposite. Okay. According to H3, the preference for jungle and top positions and the tank and fighter roles, which correspond to the general tank archetype, is expected to be related to cognitive empathy, dominant leadership, and coalition building alongside the personality traits of extroversion, agreeableness, emotionality, and openness to experience. This hypothesis, however, was refuted in its entirety. Not only was this association of these positions and roles not distinguished in latent space of these variables, but the preference of this role of tank and the preference for the position of top were not shown to significantly saturate any function. Interesting. The results of this study indicate there is no typical psychological profile that could be associated with the preference for these roles and position. In League of Legends, the function of tank and fighter in a team is also very similar, so essentially there's not much difference between the two roles as appears in game. Interesting. I would think that there would be more of a link between playing tank and the type of player. I feel like tank role is very different than healing. It's a different way of thinking, you know? Because you're not doing damage, you're absorbing damage and focusing on positioning. Very interesting. All right, to summarize. The second QCF in this research aligns with the archetype healer role commonly seen in multiplayer video games. In contrast, the first QCF reflects the opposite of this archetype, while the first and third QCF together cluster player styles and preferences typically associated with DPS archetype. In other games such as World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy IX, there is a clear difference between melee DPS and range DPS roles, but the researchers had assumed that this difference would not be significant to the register in the League of Legends game, which in part of the MOBA genre. However, this difference did prove to be significant, as two separate functions corresponding to these roles were singled out. The results of the study indicate that personality characteristics are grounded differently in the latent space depending on which game style a person prefers. That is, there are patterns of playing video games that are associated with specific psychological personality profiles. Haha. Interesting. The significant contribution to this research is reflected in that it stands as a different approach to video game research and represents an initial step in further development of hypothesis and potential taxonomies of video game playing styles. Interesting. There's no conclusion. There's only discussion. Interesting. All right. This is very interesting. I mean, I think it's really interesting, this one of mid and mages and marksmen. But it's really funny how it's like, I'm going to be really, really selfish, but and it's like two opposing things. I need to be selfish to be strong and get myself ahead. And at the same time, due to my role, I still need the help of others to be successful. Because even if you're super strong, mid, marksman, assassin, or mage or whatever, you still can't win the game by yourself. Yeah, sure, you can 1v9. At the same time, you still need to have the support other people to make sure you have space to do the things that you want. And in that way, isn't video games like, it's not the beauty of video games? Like, what I mean by that is, like, very often there's not a game where you can just win by yourself. I feel like that's like the best thing about gaming, especially if you're playing like a multiplayer game. Like, your character may be strong at what it does. At the same time, if it is not able to do the things that it wants to do or have the support of other people to allow it to do what it can do, you're still going to lose the game, you know? Like, and yes, I think that's beautiful because that's part of balancing all that kind of stuff. At the same time, at the end of the day, all these games are team games, if you think about it. Like, all these things are team games. So, I wonder if that's what makes these games like frustrating in itself. Like, you can still be super strong in your game and people can still throw, and then you have no control over it. At the same time, how many times have you been like, oh my god, please carry me, daddy, and like people just carry you to victory, you know? And here's the other thing too. Like, yesterday I was playing a game and I was playing the same character. One game I got super squished and I changed nothing and I won like by a lot the other game. And I was like, what is it? What was different? Like, I didn't do anything different. And I was like, was it my team that was so different? Did I just play better? Like, what was different? And again, it was just a reminder of like, all these things are team games. It's really interesting that you can have preferences of what you want to play and how those preferences change the way that you play the game, or even towards what type of characters or positions you tend to gravitate towards. I think that's really, really interesting. But at the end of the day, listen, all these personalities and things that are really cool, there's a place for you in the game. There's a place for you to play the game from a different perspective. Gaming is really welcoming in that way, it seems. I think, though, it's really, really interesting. Honestly, if you play a support role, like, why do you play the support role? Like, I think it's really cool, yes. Like, that this study found that there are different, like, that there's different personality types and different personality types tend to play different roles. I wonder, though, now we're getting to like the chicken and egg kind of piece of it, where it's like, I wonder if people pick these types of roles because that's what they really enjoy doing and that they find something that matches them. Or I wonder if it's like they enjoy doing these things and their personality follows. So, it's like, is it a personality based thing? Or is it like a thing that you do and then your personality follows? That's the thing I'm thinking about it. Or is it like the opposite? I don't think it's the opposite. Because, I mean, I don't think, like, if you like destroying things, you would play healer. Like, I feel like that's not a thing you would do. I feel like if you really enjoy doing that thing, you probably do it in your game, too. Unless it's like a MMORPG or like an RPG, you're playing a role, a different type of role that you're intentionally trying to do like the opposite in. But I think if you're playing like this type of game, you probably pick something that you enjoy doing. So I wonder if this would be like hey, this would be your Myers-Briggs, right? Like, tell me the games that you like playing, and then tell me like why you like playing this game, and like, does it relate? Or does it not relate? But I think it's really, really cool. Now I'm trying to think of how to like to create TikToks and stuff of this. Like, what would be the hook, or like what would be the thing to like present this information? But I think it's really, really interesting when you actually stop and think about why you play the games and what you like playing about them. Like what's about this game and what is about this character that you really enjoy playing, or this position? Like, what do you really enjoy playing about it? I don't know. It's just food for thought. It's really interesting food for thought. Hmm. But yep, that's it. That is my thoughts for today. And other things that I'm thinking about too. If you wanna meet me in stream and talk about like your value of games and like what you're using games for, and who you are in games, and kind of your personality and discovering yourself through games. I'm trying to put together a different type of show or interview or whatever to kind of work with gamers to kind of find your values through gaming. So if this is something you're interested in, hit me up on LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, on my website, or on Twitter. I guess I'm going to try to start advertising that thing. Trying to help gamers find their values through gaming and see what they're using their gaming for to help you be a more intentional gamer, or see what you're doing in game and how it relates to life. Um, But yeah, that's it. There's some things I'm thinking about. I will be back on Friday to play some games or read some more, so don't miss me there. Today was a short one because I guess we finished the article faster than I thought. So I'll be back Friday or maybe a little bit later on. But I hope you guys have a good week. You guys crush it. Take it easy. Love ya. Thanks for hanging out, Dr. Jeebs. I'll see you guys later. Take it easy. As always, my name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, Psych Sensei. Reminding you that Strongman wins. All right, friends, take it easy. Love ya. Bye.